Seems like the entire United States right now is preparing for a ton of cold weather, including myself. So, what better time to talk about what makes RVs considered a four-season RV versus ones that are not considered a four seasons RV, and how to spot the differences, and how effective is that four seasons rating? Let's go take a look. Welcome back to another video, everybody. It actually is not that cold out yet, but as the time of you watching this, you might be in the midst of a blizzard or a winter storm somewhere. So this is one of the most frequently commented things that I get on any RV review that I do. It's always, is that season or is that camper four seasons rated? And that's something I've never really gone into a whole lot of detail about. So we're going to do that here today. We are here at a Blue Compass RV lot in Tyler, Texas, which is east of Dallas, kind of on the way to Louisiana, about an hour and a half outside of Dallas. They got a lot of trailers out here, some that have four season ratings on them, some that don't, and then a whole lot of stuff in between. We're going to talk about all the differences and then how you can understand if your RV or the RV you're looking at is four seasons rated or not, and then how important some of these things may be. So let's get into it. As we get into this here, it is perfectly understandable why people ask this question so often, as this information is not consistent whatsoever. Even as I went in to do a chat GPT research into this information does not fit everything that is, kind of required for an RV to be considered full four seasons. Now, let me start with addressing the reason why people ask this question. It is almost always asked in reference to the cold. It's almost always somebody saying they live up north, it dropped below zero, and they want to know if they can live in one of these RVs. And to that, and really any questions that I get regarding whether or not RVs are four seasons rated or not, is where are people getting this expectation that an RV should be able to perform in sub-zero degree temperatures, or on the contrary, like 100+ degree temperatures? I own a home in Dallas, Texas, and I can tell you, even with my home, my bedrooms upstairs do not get below 78 degrees during the day in the summer. It is just impossible. I've not been able to find a solution to get my home any cooler than that in the upstairs bedrooms. So to have an expectation for an RV to always be at your most like desirable temperature inside is just not a realistic expectation that I would ever expect it to be able to meet, especially since it's hard for homes to even meet those expectations when they are in extreme climates. So let's keep that in mind as we go through this video here. Now, we're going to start at the very base level of RVs and then kind of work our way up from there as we talk through kind of what goes into four seasons ratings and what doesn't, and then what, RVs that aren't four seasons rated are missing versus ones that are four seasons rated. So if we go over here to these Transcend and Transcend 1 from Grand Design, and keep in mind, this is consistent across all brands. I just happen to be at this lot that has these certain products here, but this is going to be consistent with stuff that's in the same price range all across the board. So this Transcend 1 is a single axle aluminum sided travel trailer that is going to be about as base as it gets when it comes to travel trailers and their climate ratings, as you could say. There may be a few things here or there that they may do a little bit different. So like, first of all, one of the first things I'm going to look at is down underneath here. Like, this one is actually pretty well done because it has a enclosed underbelly. So that means that your water tanks underneath are not exposed. Now, why that is significant, actually, you know what, we should have started with a Forest River Aurora, because the Forest River Aurora and some of those other lines like that will have some smaller travel trailers that won't have an enclosed underbelly. The Rockwood and Flagstaff also have some that don't have an enclosed underbelly, like this GeoPro right here may not, that we're going to go take a look at. But that's significant because that is just going to allow there to be a cavity underneath the underbelly of the RV where heat can flow into that space and do its best to try to keep water tanks and water lines from freezing. So not having an enclosed underbelly means that those water tanks are going to be completely exposed to the elements. So let's get under this GeoPro and see underneath here. Yep, there you can see you have an exposed water tank underneath here. So there is no cavity that heat can sit in underneath here for this to stay warm. There is something else on here that we'll get to in a second with that heat pad on there, but we're not going to get to that quite yet. So an enclosed underbelly, that is a very important component to an RV having a Four Seasons rating. Nothing that has an open exposed underbelly is going to have a Four Seasons rating sticker on the outside. And you'll see some of the RVs we'll look at later will have that Four Seasons rating sticker on the outside. And even on this Aurora, I think these bigger ones even have enclosed underbellies underneath them too. Yep. So fully enclosed underneath there. And that's one of the key things to look at. Next is like your insulation. Now, insulation is something that a lot of people get caught up on. Some people comment and want to know R values of RVs. Honestly, I have never looked at that stuff. I can tell you if it's hot outside, I've gone in every RV under the sun pretty much on a hot day. They all feel hot. It's just it's just a matter of how it goes. Like they are just hot inside. And if it's cold outside, they're all cold inside. Now, there are some differences with your aluminum sided RVs. I would just have a hard time imagining they're going to handle the weather as well. But as far as like the insulation and stuff that goes in here, there's not a whole lot of differences. These RVs are all going to be very similar in their construction as far as, you know, the thickness of the sidewalls and how much insulation is packed in there. And there's only so much these RV brands can even do to differentiate their insulation because they're dealing with such a limited amount of space to work with to variate different stuff. You may see things like some of the higher end travel trailers will have beneath here, you can't see it, but there is like a reflective layer of that like foil insulation that goes in there. Some brands will also do like that foil insulation underneath the floor. But again, we're talking about a super thin sheet of just foil, and I don't know how big of a difference that's making. Obviously, it's making some sort of difference. If you were to wrap yourself in like a foil blanket, essentially, it's going to have those properties that kind of keep the heat inside. So there are some degrees to that where I believe it would make a difference. But at the end of the day, your most vulnerable point for insulation is always going to be things like your windows and stuff like that, anyways. So the thickness of the sidewalls will make a difference to some degree, but at the same time, like all these travel trailers here, I would think are, and again, some of this too, I'm just speaking from not like this is like studied and gone through labs and been tested kind of knowledge. This is just like my hands on tangible knowledge with being in these things every day. There's not that big of a difference that you have from, you know, a travel trailer like a Transcend that's aluminum sided and a Reflection here that's fiberglass sided when it comes to just the insulation of the RVs. I would think there's going to be some degree of difference there. I would imagine these are going to perform a bit better than something like this here, but I do know people that live in trailers like this year round that make them work, and then obviously people that live in trailers like this year round and make them work. So let's go through some of the other things that ChatGPT says will make something Four Seasons. So you can see here, like with walls, roofs, and floors, there will be a higher grade of insulation material such as foam or fiberglass to retain heat in the winter and block heat in the summer. So yes, there will be some differences there. Then windows, they go into double paned or thermal windows to reduce heat loss and condensation. This is already in item number one is false. You're going to see on things like this Momentum here, it has a sticker on it that says Four Seasons rated, and it does not have dual pane windows. Dual pane windows is not a requirement for something to be considered Four Seasons in the RV industry. So you can see right here, Four Seasons protection. And when it comes to things like dual pane windows, um, you have different types of dual pane windows out there as well. There's those like bubbled acrylic dual pane windows, which I don't have any to show here on this lot, but those are not insulated windows. It's literally just two pieces of acrylic that have a gap of air in between them that don't really provide much of any insulation. If anything, they dampen the sound outside, but they don't provide much insulation. And then there's brands like DRV Mobile Suites and like Riverstone that are going to offer dual pane insulated windows, which should have some degree of a difference. I just don't know how much because there's not really a good way to measure that degree of difference that those dual pane windows make. But most RVs that you look at that have a Four Seasons sticker on them do not have dual pane windows. That is not a standard option that is common in the RV world. Some of them will have options where you can option dual pane windows, but it's not going to be a super common thing that you see. And there will be most RVs out there that are Four Seasons rated that do not have dual pane windows. And I don't think that's a big deal either. There's so many people across the country living in RVs full time in extreme climates without dual pane windows, and they are doing all right. And you can let me know your thoughts on all this stuff down below as well, because this here is like a forum on this page for people to share their ideas and their experience with what they have seen using their RVs. And I'm excited to document this stuff too. As a lot of you know, I just bought my own RV in Alliance Delta, which is not Four Seasons rated, and already, before I've even camped in this thing, I'm potentially thinking about living in it full time, or at least living in it like 30 days at a time to get that experience to really understand it. So that's all going to be coming as well. The next things are going to be significantly more important, and that's going to be the heating and cooling systems, which this is going to make a big difference. So if you have a 30,000 BTU furnace versus like a 40,000 BTU furnace, obviously that's going to make a world of a difference. If you have one 13,500 BTU AC on your 27-foot travel trailer or 28-foot travel trailer like I do, that's going to make a huge difference versus having like a 29 or 30-foot long travel trailer with two ACs on it, especially if you get two ACs that are 15,000 BTU ACs, or we even have like the Furion ACs now with the Chill Cube that have an 18,000 BTU AC. Those things are going to make a much bigger difference than a lot of other things that go into RV construction, because that's where you actually have a wide range of different options as far as the materials, or not the materials, the appliances that are used in the construction of the RVs to get that better climate rating. So that's going to be one where, you know, if you're in hot climates, obviously the more ACs, the better. And if you are in colder climates, the stronger the furnace is, the better. After that, you have tank heaters. This is going to be a big one. Tank heaters is one of the most common things I see that is present in RVs that have that Four Seasons sticker on the outside versus ones that do not. Tank heaters are going to be like what we saw on that GeoPro back behind me here. And sorry, I'm just kind of walking and talking as we go. Um, the next item that we see is going to be something that is one of the most common things I see that is present on RVs that have a Four Seasons rating sticker on them versus ones that do not, and that is going to be 12-volt heat pads on water tanks. So that's going to be like what we saw on the Geo Pro, where it's basically like a sticker thing that just adheres to the tank that is going to go to the 12-volt battery system that you can flip on that will keep your water tanks warm. Now, two different instances where this is important. If you're out at a campsite or at an RV park, more than likely you're going to be hooked up to power and you're going to have your furnace running if it's cold. If it's below freezing temperatures, it's almost certain your furnace will be running, which in almost every camper out there with an enclosed underbelly is going to keep your water tanks from freezing. There's going to be heat that goes into that area that keeps the water tanks from freezing, but the 12-volt heat pads add a little bit extra heating power. Plus, the most important thing is you can flip on those heat pads while you're driving down the road so that your tanks don't freeze while you are driving. I think that's the most significant thing that the 12-volt heat pads offer. Is if you're camping in below freezing temperatures and then move locations in the midst of traveling in below freezing temperatures, or even if you're traveling at like 38 degrees or something like that, wind chill driving at 60, 70 miles an hour can still freeze the tanks. So those heat pads can stay on without having to run propane, so that you can keep your 12, or you can keep your water tanks from freezing with those 12-volt heat pads. So that's going to be something that is really significant, that is going to be present on every single RV I've ever seen that has a Four Seasons sticker rating on it, has 12-volt heat pads on the water tanks. And then I don't think there's any that I can recall that have that sticker on them that do not have 12-volt heat pads on the water tanks. But again, the biggest application where I see that being used is driving down the road, because when you're parked somewhere, you're going to have your furnace on, which will also be sending heat into that cavity that keeps your water tanks warm. Unless you're in something like a Geo Pro where that 12-volt heat pad is the only thing there to keep the water tanks warm, which is common, or not common, but it is present in some RV brands. Then the next thing we have on the list here is the enclosed and heated underbelly. So we kind of talked about that already. You have sealed and weatherproof construction. Um, See, this is another one of those ones where there are some differences uh, that are minor when it comes to this, but all of these RV brands, I mean, they are doing the best they can to try to offer a product at that price range that can withstand the elements. So I don't even know what to get into. Maybe you guys know more than I do, but I don't even know what to get into in terms of that there with different aspects that you might get in terms of like the seals and weatherproofing construction that they're doing in RVs, because so much of the construction that I see with the seals and weatherproofing is literally all the same across all these RVs, except for the difference of like fiberglass versus, aluminum siding, for instance. Then you have ventilation and moisture control. This is definitely important as well, but all of these RVs here are going to have ventilation and vent fans inside of the RV. You may have bigger vent fans in, some of your higher end products. Literally like the fan blades and the vents are bigger than others, which will help move more air around. But for like hot climates, or if you like have your furnace running all the time, sorry, if you have your furnace running all the time, I would definitely recommend getting a dehumidifier in any RV. Things to look forward to on my channel here. I'm actually, since I just bought my RV, I'm putting my Amazon shopping cart together of all the things that I need for this RV, and I will be making a full video of everything that you need to think about when getting an RV. Dehumidifier is definitely one, because you can have, um, humidity and condensation and things like that build up inside of an RV when you're running the furnace a lot and it's cold outside. So that's something to keep in mind. And then obviously when it's hot outside too, if you live in a humid climate, like it's just good to have cool air running through there. But again, there's not that much of a differentiation between how one brand constructs those things versus others, except for like the size of the AC units and the vent fans. And that's pretty much it. And all of your ones that have those Four Seasons ratings are going to have like your bigger 15,000 BTU ACs, but they still could have like a secondary 13,500 BTU AC, even though it could be optioned with a 15,000 BTU AC that would make it more powerful, but it'll still have that Four Seasons rating sticker on it, regardless of whether or not it has that 15,000 BTU AC or not. So those are things that you kind of have to ask as a customer to make sure you understand, or you could like ask to see the build sheet at an RV dealership to make sure it has the equipment that you want on there that you're looking for. Next thing we have on the list is going to be a robust electrical and plumbing system. So this is definitely true. Electrical does get very, put under pressure in cold temperatures. And then with your plumbing, one of the biggest differences we see, especially on fifth wheels, is like if you have a residential refrigerator or any refrigerator with like an ice maker, it's going to have a water line that goes to that refrigerator that is open and exposed outside. So if you don't winterize that, that is something that is definitely going to freeze in below freezing temperatures that a lot of people don't know or don't plan for. We see this with Brinkley. Brinkley is one of the few brands I've seen that actually has like a heated water line that goes to the fridge to make sure that that water line doesn't freeze when the um, temperatures get colder and people still want to leave that piece of equipment in use in colder temperatures. But they're literally one of the only ones. There's not a whole lot of brands out there that have a heated line going to the fridge for the ice maker to the fridge. Other than that, all of your other water lines and everything, as long as you have an enclosed underbelly, your water lines are all flowing through that enclosed underbelly, typically above the insulation in a heated cavity, so they're staying warm. And that's consistent across all these different brands. I mean, it, none of these brands are doing things to intentionally try to make water lines freeze and stuff like that. And then finally, all it has is certification. It just says some RV manufacturers label their units as Four Seasons certified based on their construction and features. Check for certifications or reviews to verify performance. And you should do that because there's not a whole lot of like regulation in the RV industry. So basically any brand can put a Four Seasons sticker on the outside of their RV, and there's going to be varying degrees. So like now we get into, let's go into the high end stuff. So you have something like DRV Mobile Suites, which is Four Seasons rated, just like a Keystone Montana is Four Seasons rated, or um, let's see, like a Alliance Paradigm is going to be Four Seasons rated, and a DRV Mobile Suites is literally almost like $100,000 more than what these other RVs are because of how many different things they do for the performance to live in the RV for full time. So like a 3.25 inch thick sidewall is what you see on a DRV mobile suite versus a 2 inch thick sidewall that's standard across the rest of the industry. Now, how much of a difference that extra thickness in the sidewall makes, I don't know, because again, I haven't like put these things through tests to really verify it and see. But that is a pretty significant difference having an 1.25 inches of additional wall thickness and insulation. I would assume that's going to make quite the difference. But nonetheless, the RVs with 2 inch thick sidewalls are still also going to have that Four Seasons rating. And most people that are living full time in RVs are living in RVs with a 2 inch thick sidewall. So it's not like it's required to have that 3.25 inch thick sidewall to get that performance that's necessary to live in an RV full time. A DRV mobile suite also has dual pane insulated windows, whereas most other RV brands that people live in full time do not. So again, it's something where it may help the performance, but it's not like those are things that are going to be consistent in RVs that you see that have that Four Seasons rating. So, all of this said, it's a very complicated subject matter when you're trying to think of, are RVs Four Seasons rated or which ones are and aren't. The best advice I can give you is the price of the RV is going to tell you how well it's kind of built to perform in different circumstances. If you are looking at travel trailers, the more expensive they get, the more is going into trying to make it more capable to last into further seasons. And that's pretty much consistent with everything across the board. There's obviously other things that go into the price as well. But if you're looking at a $15,000 travel trailer, you're getting a $15,000 travel trailer. If you're looking at a $60,000 travel trailer, you're getting a $60,000 travel trailer, and they are building them with extended camping and, furthering your camping season or your ability to live in the RV full time when you go up in these price ranges. But that being said, again, I see people that live full time in like $20,000 travel trailers and they make it work. So I hope this information helps. I know it's not like one day I would love to just get all these RVs in a climate controlled chamber and test all of them and see what degree of difference there is between similar products. But unless I build it myself, I don't know where I could do something like that because how would I even get all the RVs there at the same time to test it? Um, but a lot of these RV brands, they do test their RVs in temperature controlled chambers. Most RVs are rated from like 0 to 100 degrees. And even still, I think with all that being said, it is just the best bet to always have level expectations when it comes to traveling and or living in an RV. The same way you should have level expectations if you live in a house or an apartment. I mean, like I said in the beginning, my bedrooms in my house in Texas during the summer that are upstairs do not get below like 78 degrees on a 100+ degree day. It doesn't happen. So to expect it out of a travel trailer or a fifth wheel RV is not realistic whatsoever. I would say it's safe to bet that in a hot climate, you are likely going to be able to get your RV maybe 25 degrees cooler than what it is outside. If you're doing better than that, that is awesome. Like, that's fantastic. But my expectation would always be if I can get my RV 25 degrees below what it is outside, that's probably about where, I mean, that's pretty dang good. There are other things that you can get out there as well. You can get like portable air conditioners to put inside of your RV to help out with that. Um, there's also things where, when it comes to heat, you can get like electric space heaters and stuff like that. But this is just one of those questions I get a lot. It's kind of hard to talk about because there's no clear set standards on what a Four Season camper is. But I hope this information helps you guys and helps get a little bit better understanding of what makes something a Four Seasons camper versus what is not a Four Seasons camper. So that's all I got for y'all. I, again, just bought my own camper myself, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel because I will be using this thing a ton so I can get more hands-on, kind of tangible experience with this stuff and speak to it to a further degree than I currently can. And if you have any additional information, please share it down below in the comments. That's all I got for y'all. Until next time, live firmly unbound.